Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know, and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, hello again, and welcome to another edition of Someone You Should Know. As always, thank you for joining us, whether it's live at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays or you just catch up at your own convenience later. I very, very much appreciate you watching the show. I love all the comments that you're sending, and thanks for clicking on the little like button and share button and sending it to some of your other friends. We're going to have a good time today. And we are brought to you by the one, the only Christine Dean, who is the DFW Networking Diva. She is the producer of this show. If you like this show, it's because of Christine Dean. If you like the content of the show, the flow of the show, and how it's organized, that's because of Christine Dean. She can help you with your website, with organizing your marketing plans, do whatever needs to be done to help make you and your business even better than it is now. Reach out to Christine Dean, the DFW Networking Diva. Well, I hope you enjoy these podcasts every week, because today is going to be kind of like a twofer day, because you're going to get two podcasters for the price of one. And I'd like to welcome in James Cox into the show, who is a fellow podcaster. Hey, James, good to see you.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Now, folks, as I say, there's two podcasters in front of you right now. James is the good-looking one. I'm the old guy.
I don't know about that. You're much more handsome than I ever could be. So yeah.
And we talked about a week or so ago, and I said I'd like to invite you on the show to talk a little bit about you, your life, and your podcasting and all. And then all of a sudden today, you pop up on the screen, and you got a beard now. You had just a little scruffy little thing a couple of weeks ago.
I did. I don't. For years, I've been trying to grow like a big one, like you see these Harley Davidson guys, and like rock stars. But I ordered from beardclub.com, and their products just work. I don't know what it is about it, but their products just work. So yeah.
Well, folks, you may have noticed right from the outset of the show here, James speaks with a little bit of a drawl, if you will, and it's for a very, very important reason. And James, you were born with cerebral palsy.
Yes.
And you were born with it, or was it diagnosed a little bit later?
Okay, so after I was born, I guess I was like diagnosed with it after, because they know there's something really wrong with me. Well, not really wrong with me. I guess my answer to you is I was diagnosed after it, because they didn't know why because I had some problems with me, and they can figure out why. But I was diagnosed within several days after being born. I've been told by my mom.
Well, and I think that's probably typical among a lot of infants that, they have to start to develop a little bit, some of their motor skills, their attention skills, and then they go to the doctor for the checkups, and the doctor says, there's a little something, I want to run a test or this and that. But so right from the get-go, what was life like for you and for your family when they said, well, James has cerebral palsy and it's going to change his lifestyle a little bit, and your parents' lifestyle? Your dad was in the service at the time, and I thank him very much for his service. How did that impact your family and ultimately impact you?
Yeah, well, I grew up middle class, and my dad, like you said, was in the military Air Force for 30 years. He retired a full bird colonel, and I can't speak more good things about him. He's an awesome dad, awesome father. My mom is an awesome mom too. She used to go with me through high school, and college, and elementary school, being a substitute teacher. But life with them was, I don't want to say hard. Well, I do want to say hard because my mom you bought the school, hand and foot over what I needed. So she got me into special ed classes, and then she said I want him to be in regular classes. So I guess she worked out a deal, and I was in regular classes the majority of the time. But when I needed the extra help, I was, going back to those special ed classes.
And it was tough enough just to be in that situation, but being in the military, you've lived in the country and you've lived out of the country, so there was a little bit of jumping around. Where have you lived in the world?
Okay, so I from what I remember, I lived in Florida and Virginia were the most main two places like we go. We moved around every 4 to 6 years. But overseas, we lived in the Philippines for about 3 years, 2 or 3 years, and I can remember some stuff, but I can't remember everything about it.
You were young at that time?
But I was like 4 to 6 years old, so yeah,
Oh, okay.
stuff that I really remember and stuff I don't remember at all.
And then your dad was stationed in a southeast United States, in South Carolina for quite a while.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was ever stationed in Sumter, but he was stationed in the Virginia, and he worked at the Pentagon for years.
Oh,
But that was way before 9/11, and
yeah,
I think it was Langley Air Force Base. I'm not sure. I think that's in
right.
Virginia too, right? Yeah. So there's been many places he's been stationed. And I'm pretty forgetful because I just turned 43 January 5th. So it's, I mean, it all runs together for me sometimes.
So, now, do you have any siblings, any brothers or sisters?
I got one sister, and she lives in Richmond, Virginia. She has many jobs. I don't know what she is doing right now. She told me what she does, but it's so confusing for me. It's hard to tell you. But she has two degree made I think PhDs or something. I mean, she's really
Oh,
really smart. She's been to a few colleges. She has two kids with a husband, and like I said, she lives in Richmond, Virginia now, so she's doing very very well for herself.
and she's older or younger than you?
She is 2 years older, so that would be, I don't want to say her age, but yeah, I'm 43. I'm 43, so you can guess how old she is.
Yeah, yeah. Just
It's not
kind
like,
of do the math.
right? Yeah. Just say for, yeah, exactly.
So, in growing up, I'm just curious, and share as much information as you want. But you said that your mom felt that you were more mainstream than maybe others thought you were, and she wanted you to be in regular school. And how was that for you mentally and physically, going to school with kids who obviously were moving maybe twice as fast as you could?
Right. Okay. Great answer. Great question, I should say. Okay. So for me, I was born with CP, so that's all I knew. I have no idea what it is to be, like mobile people. So
Right.
I really can't actually answer that for you, because I've known CP all my life, and that's all I know. Um, so I don't really know how to answer that for you. You know, because
So, yeah, I
being
mean, I
CP,
think, yeah, I think your answer is really a great answer, is because you didn't see yourself as being anything other than normal through your eyes and your feelings and your actions. But and I think it's fair to say that for you it was probably a great benefit that your mom had the vision to say, let him be among his peers, and you move at his own pace rather than being held back and put into special needs classes or a special needs school.
right?
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, oh yes, because my mom like needed and wanted me to be, just as normal as the other kids were, and didn't want to put me specifically in special ed classes because she knew I had a big potential for life coming up whenever I got out of school, and I do, and I did, and I do now. So yeah, my mom and dad were my number one biggest fans of all time. I can say,
I think it's probably fair to say that you're they're probably your biggest fans and you're
Oh
their
yeah,
biggest fans too.
yes
It's
sir.
it's very very mutual. Now you today in your 40s and all, you need a little bit of help with a cane or with a walker.
I do. I have a walker that I use since I was 23 or 4. I've been through several of them, but yeah, but I still walk with one a day.
And so that's for, you said roughly 20 years ago you started to need that, and it doesn't hold you back. You just move at your own pace, right?
I do. I do. My
Are
mom.
do you drive?
I do not drive yet. No, I'm. It's
Okay.
it's not because I don't want to. It's because of the prices. The gas prices. You got to look out for other people driving at you, and I'm like, I can't do with it now. So I'm gonna hold off until later on to learn how to drive. I do have my driver's permit, and I was very happy when I got that. But yeah, but I do not drive.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So did you after high school and everything, what did you start doing? What's been your like business career? What are the things you've been involved in?
Okay, so after high school, so during high school, so after high school, I worked at a college. I went to college for about 2 years. I couldn't pass math. Math is. I don't think anybody likes math. If you do, you're totally weird to me. I can't stand math. But during the course that I went to college, I started working at the help desk for 10 years, and then after that, I worked at uh, a public library, and then after that, I worked at a thrift store. And then while I was working at the thrift store, because I needed 2 jobs, I started working at Dave and Buster's, and then I left Dave and Buster's and started working for the thrift store only. But when COVID happened, they couldn't do anything with the thrift store anymore. So then
Right.
I got a job working at Outback right now, and I've been there for 2 years now, and I love it. Still love it.
You mentioned the library. That was the Sumter Library, and that's kind of a famous library, isn't it?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because Fort Sumter
Yeah,
has a long history,
right.
and that was interesting. And of course, Dave and Buster's, that must have been a lot of fun.
Yes, but it was the reason why I lived there because I have cerebral palsy in my legs just couldn't keep up with the place because that place is big.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just because you work at one position there, technically you work at all positions. You have to help somebody over here, over there, while you're doing your job. I was a host, so I sat people down to eat food. But if somebody had a problem with the game, I ran over there to help them. Came back, so it was too much on my legs for me right now. Because I have osteoarthritis. I've been told. That's fading away slowly though, but it still happens to me. So, but at Outback they have me sitting down in a chair, which I love them for. So I make do with the chair, and of course I sit people down. But when I really want to rest these old bones, I I sit down on the chair, and they're totally fine with that. So yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, Outback Steakhouse is one of my favorite places. I am a huge fan of the blooming onion.
Man, that's our number one seller. I am upset though because they used to have. Okay, so do you remember the blooming petals
Yes,
where it was a blooming onion but smaller size? I
right.
still don't know why they did why they haven't brought that back. My parents used to love that. You know.
Now, I like the bloomin' onion, and I will order that and eat the entire thing myself. That's my dinner. You know, you
Yeah,
can hold the steak, you can hold the baked potato, you can hold all the other stuff.
bring on
Give
the
me my
onion.
bloomin' onion, well done. I
Yeah,
like it well done.
yes, exactly, exactly. That seems to be our number one selling project. But we do have bloomin' shrimp, which is to die for. So if you have any other opportunity to go to David Mustard, I mean to Outback, bloomin' onion really is good, so good.
But try the bloomin' shrimp.
Bloomin' shrimp. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to try that sometime. So now you're sitting obviously in a studio in front of a microphone with the headset on and all, and you got into music and decided to become a podcaster, and your podcast is really when words fail, music speaks. And I have said that over and over again many times to myself. And I realize that it's a very, very profound 5 words. And where did this idea concept come from and how did you develop it?
So uh I'm going to tell you the fruition of it. So my friend Mark, I don't want to say his last name because I'm not sure if I can, but my friend Mark and I was out in Starbucks one day, and I used to blow him away with all my music knowledge. Um, and he says, "You know what? Since you know a lot about music, and you've had some podcasts in the past, why don't you come up with a music podcast?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's a great idea." So one day I came home and I was watching a YouTube video and a YouTube video on a totally request live, way back in the '90s. It came on with some Carson Daly,
Right.
and their host was asking people, what does music mean to you after a concert, right? And this one girl says, "When words fail, music speaks." So I'm like, "That's it. That's the name of the podcast." Because there was 5 words. Yes, it rings true to everybody. Music does such a wonderful thing for the soul, for the mind. It relieves all stress, and it gets rid of depression too.
Yeah, and I want you to explain a little bit more to those that are listening and watching a little more about how you see the power of music in fighting depression and some of the challenges that you have in life.
So my podcast is for everyone. It's not for one specific person. It's for everyone because more and more today you have people who are depressed over job security, relationships, and many other subjects, right? And I don't want other people to be as like depressed. I don't want them to feel anywhere from what I feel like when I'm depressed. So I came up with this podcast because yes, music heals the mind too. And whenever I was down in my past, and living with my mom and dad until up until like a few years ago, whenever I was down, I always used to listen to music, always, because my parents always raised me up on music, and for some reason I can't tell you what it does, because I'm not a doctor, but for me it takes all that pain away, you know.
Well, there are a lot of studies, and I think that COVID helped really raise the issue. Was that COVID stressed an awful lot of people out because a
Yes.
lot of people lost their jobs, they were laid off, they went into to half salary, whatever, and businesses started to operated remotely from home. And it caused a lot of upheaval in the schools, in the workplace, in just general society. Uh, and so every once in a while, you had to step back and take a deep breath and and try and calm that stress level. And you're absolutely right. Music was one of the ways to do it. And whether it was heavy metal music or whether it was classical music, it was just something that would remove you from the stress that you were encountering and
Yes.
and kind of help you refocus on what you needed to do for the rest of the day. And I think that if I get the drift of what you're doing with your podcast now, it's letting people know how effective that process can be in managing any kind of stress or depression that you might be going through.
Right. Yeah. I've actually seen it live, like just talking to another person. I've actually seen it help people to the max because I do this with my co-host Blake Mosley. We call him Rosley on the podcast. Mix bro and his last name Mosley together, Rosley. Right. Um.
Okay.
So I remember, before we recorded an episode, we talked about how our day was going, and he said, "Man, I just started feeling it today, man. I don't know what to do, And I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna be awesome. We're gonna have a great podcast talking about music, and we recorded that podcast. And right as soon as we talked about music, boom, he just came alive, So.
So did you set up the website first, which is scrolling across the screen right now? And I invite everybody watching and listening to check out when words fail music speaks.com. It's a wonderful website. There's a lot of very, very valid information. There's even a link where you can email James with any of your questions or concerns. But did you set up the website first or the podcast? Which one came first?
Podcast.
The podcast came first.
And then somebody told me I should really do a website, and I'm like, so say no more. So luckily, I got the URL because I figured that when wordsfilmmusicspeaks.com was taken, luckily it was not. So I looked out, and here we are. Almost 3 years later. So
You've been doing the podcast for 3 years now?
3 years coming in February, yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And you have you've kind of you lived under your parents' wings for a long time, and always with the goal of being independent and living on your own, and you are now. So how was that process? Because that all happened while you were starting to do the podcast and everything.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I think it was at COVID when I started this. But before then, I lived with my parents till I was 37-ish, maybe. I moved to Lexington in 2017, the day after my birthday, January 5th. So I moved in January 6th, 2017. So I had to fight for the government for a year just to get out, just to move to Lexington because I found a great organization called the Arc of the Midlands, and they have 750 stations in the United States. I was going to say worldwide, but I don't think they're worldwide yet. So my mom said, if I really want to move out of the house, you got to do this. They were supportive, but they're like, if I want this bad enough, I got to do it. Right. So in order for me to move out, I had to have Medicaid. I had Medicare, but they needed Medicaid. I don't know why that works. I don't know. I really don't know what Medicaid is or Medicare. So please don't ask me because I don't know. But I fought for the government for about a year for that Medicaid, and it came through, and I moved out of the house, and yeah. So I've lived here for like 5-6 years now. So it's been wonderful so far. I've done so much stuff.
Well, and here it's this dream to be out independent, self-sufficient on your own and all. And you're going to get a job, you're going to do these podcasts and all, and then all of a sudden, smack, you get COVID, and that starts to put a damper on a lot of things. How did it affect James Cox both physically and mentally when all of that happened? Because hey, now I'm on my own, and whoa, I really am on my own, and I got to deal with
Yeah,
this.
exactly. So COVID really took a turn for me because yes, you get depressed when you're in lockdown for however many months that we were. And I was doing, just the day to day things. I used to watch TV, get on the computer. Like there's something more to this. So I remembered when my friend Mark told me about I should start a podcast about music. Because I've had a podcast before, and those didn't work out because of the subjects. Um, and then I had a podcast with my friend Blake, who runs When Words Fail with me now. We had to talk about communication skills and how there's none here, because it's all about texting and no one looks up at the phone and have a one-to-one conversation like like you and I are.
Yes.
So and so when that didn't work, I was like, okay, well, like I'm starting a music podcast. Would you like to join? Right? And he's like, yes. He instantly said yes because if I don't know anything about music, he'll overtake it and say, okay, well, this is this is that. So I have the perfect co-host for my podcast. But yeah, COVID really brought that out of me because it's like if you're not doing something, you're just being lazy, and you kind of get like less motivated if you're doing nothing, you know. So I just thought I decided to do this because one, it'll get me out of the funk, and hopefully it'll get you out of the funk, and it'll make me more motivated to get a weekly show out.
Now, do you pick the musical subjects that you're going to talk about? Have you always been a lover of music, and what kind of music do you really enjoy?
Okay, so that's the 3 part. Well, okay, so
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot. So let's break this down. Okay, so I've been a fan of music all my life. Like I said before, my parents brought me up on country because country is my number one go to of all time. You got your Range of Travises, George Strait, Garth Brooks, Faith Evans, Faith Hill. There's many more I can go on, but names are running out of my head. Um, but yeah, I was brought upon music, so I love music my whole life. My mom was a big Elvis fan. My aunt was a biggest Beatles fan. Beatles, Beatles like overtook my life at during the time that I was introduced to them.
Right.
So yes, I grew up on music, and then the second question would be, do I come up with the subjects? So when we first started, yes, I came up with the subjects for it. We either talked about specific genres or specific bands and covered the whole catalog about where you started, who started it, how many albums did they have. Lately, my co-host Blake has that all in the bag, so he does it from now on, which is great. That helps me out a lot.
Okay.
Uh, so in the meantime, I've been interviewing musicians, some well known and some not known, but you need to know them, because I think the musicians that are not well known need to get out in the front more often, and I don't think they get the support that they deserve, you know. So
Well, and it's podcasts like yours and mine that work very, very well for those that are trying to get known, because to travel around from place to place and try and share your music with the public, uh, these video podcasts and YouTube and all have become a platform for a lot of new upcoming musicians to showcase their talents. And then when they meet somebody like you and Blake and be able to share what's going on in their musical life, and everything, it helps put them on the map.
yes, it does. It totally does. And I for helping everybody. So if you need my help in any way, I'll be more than happy to, come on anybody's show or interview anybody.
Well, there you go. For those that are watching and listening, if you are a guitar picker or whatever, and you want to get showcased, and all, reach out to James Cox and get on his podcast. And maybe those of you that are watching that say, "Hey, well, I've got a nephew or a niece or a grandson that's a musician, and they're really trying to break through." Reach out to somebody that's connected into the music world and can help say, well, what kind of music do you do? Let us play a little bit of your music and showcase it. In fact, you were working with a an artist, and the artist decided to do a video, and he invited James Cox to be a part of his video. Tell us a little bit about that project and how that went.
All right. So I interviewed a artist. Her name is Sarah Harrelson, Harrelson, and she's right there if you go on YouTube.
Pretty lady.
Yeah, she is. She's a country artist, and her drummer is the drummer for what my a previous interview. Her name is Chantel Ogden, another great person, another country artist. So I met Sarah through Chantel, and after our interview, our interview went so smooth, because I like it. I love instant connections, like I'm feeling with you right now. I love you so much. But she emailed me out of the blue one day, and she said, I'm coming out with a video. Would you like to be part of it? And I said, sure, tell me more, because I love music videos, I can't get enough of them. And she said, okay, so I have a song called The Chance. And what the song is about is how many people don't get the chance to do something. We've all been there. We've either missed our spot, missed our connection, and then pulled the trigger on it, So she asked me to hold up a piece of paper to what I really wanted to do. And I was like, okay. She said it needs to be about like 15 to 20 seconds max. You can write out anything on the paper you want to. And I'm like, okay, done. So I wrote a paper that says to inspire more people. Okay. So it's a beautiful song. I come in at about the 20-second mark. So yeah.
Well, how would you like it if we share some of that with our viewers?
Yes, please do.
Quit your part-time job at the Texaco. Pull some cash from your stash. Go to Mexico. Fall in love like you were 16. You still can't buy a time machine.
All right. Yeah, so that was a quick little blur, but
yeah,
I really want to inspire more people, because the more you inspire, the more good stuff happens. And I think this world is not looking at the good. I think it's all focused on the bad right now, which is not good for anybody's mental health.
She has a beautiful voice, and that's a very interesting concept for the video of doing it with the little handmade signs.
Yes.
So and it now launched your appearances in video. So
yeah, I'm always looking at it right now. So if you need me in a video, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to help anybody with anything. So.
Now, how do you find your guests to be on your podcast?
Well, okay, so when I started this podcast, I wanted a artist by the name of Nita Strauss. I don't know if you heard of her, but she's a great guitarist. She was in the Iron Maiden's cover band for the Iron Maiden band.
Okay.
And now she's in the Alice Cooper band, which I love to death. I love Alice Cooper.
Oh.
But I couldn't get her, so I'm like, man, because I didn't have any listens at the time. It's all about listens and everything. It's all about numbers to the PR people over there. So I'm like, okay, well, I know a guy who I grew up with in high school. His name is Philip Rowe, and he was my first ever interview, and I love him to death, because if because I'm like, if I could do this with him, I could do this with anybody, And it was such a good conversation. So my advice to everybody is start with who you know first, and then branch out from there.
That's right. And there are podcastguests.com
Yes.
is how I found you. You were listed on podcastguests.com. It's a free service. And for people who do podcasts, if you're looking for guests, you can research it. But I was just fascinated when I read a little bit about James, and he put himself out there. And so I invited him to be a guest on my show. And I don't doubt that there's going to be other people that are going to be calling to get him on their shows. And you start sharing this, and that's how you build up your audience. And like you said, the first few interviews that you do, sometimes there's a little bit of rough edges, but the more that you do, the more fluid it becomes.
Right.
And it's just a matter of doing your homework and studying a little bit about the person that's going to be your guest, so that you can share an open conversation.
Right.
I told you right up front, I want to invite you as a guest, but I don't want it to be just a Q&A. I ask a question, you give an answer. I ask the next question. It's more conversational, and I find it very easy to talk with you because of that kind of premise. And I know that that's what you're trying to accomplish in your podcasts.
There's been a few times when a guest just answered a question and then waited for me to ask another one, And I like those conversations because that's exactly what I needed. But I kind of wanted the conversation like you and I are having, But there are times when I had guests on and I was super, super nervous, right? And then my friend said, why don't you? I mean, they're just humans just like you and I are. Why are you nervous? Like, yeah, that makes sense. Why am I nervous when they're just humans just like I am or you are, And that stood out to me. So every once in a while I'll get nervous, but I'm like, I can't. They're just humans just like you and I are,
Well, and also when you're in a conversation, very often an answer that someone gives helps you with the next question that you want to come up with, because it kind of adds to the flow. I've been in the same seat as you. I'll ask a very not a difficult question, but I might spend a little time setting up my question, asking the question, and then my guest says yes.
Really? Just yeah.
Yes, and would you
Yeah,
like
right.
to expound upon that? Yes.
Right. But he did answer your question, so you really can't fault him for that. But it's like I want more than that, I mean, so yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. Yes, he answered the question, but no, you didn't. I wanted more from you. Yes, I totally understand
Right.
that.
Well, that's why, like, instead of saying what job do you do, tell us how you started and how you developed in what you were doing.
Right.
Like starting the podcast. Oh, so you started a podcast? Yes. How did you start this podcast? Well, I turned on the microphone.
How? How did you? Yeah, yeah. Because I think it's funny because well, okay, my uh, so I've had podcasts last 15 minutes max, and I just got done. And we went a son and a father. It's FMA plus 12 gauge GAGE, and that lasted 2 hours. And
Wow.
yeah, it was a fun interview. So what I do is I come up with an outline. I ask them what I think people want to hear and what I want to hear. So with them, I only had 5 questions, and it lasted 2 hours. I was amazed because you're right. If they bring up something, you think, okay, well, I want to learn more, but let me ask you about that. And that just went on, and it was a fluent conversation. No pauses in that.
So where do you want to take your podcast now going forward? What do you see James doing to make the podcast bigger and better and spread your audience?
So I want to become everybody wants to become better than Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan is like the pinnacle, but I want this to go further than that. I want this to go national, international, reach out to millions of people. If we could bring up my website real fast for a minute or two, I can
Okay.
show you what we're doing. Because
When
we're doing
words fail, musicspeaks.com.
right. Because we're doing something special here that I'm giving opportunities on, and I can show you what we're doing if when we get that up there.
And that's on the website?
Yes, sir. It's
Okay.
okay. So it'll get yep. So that's the website. So if you go to blog, that tab on the top where it says blog, yeah, click that for me, please. Yes. Okay. So we are getting interns to write articles about music and how it makes them feel. You know, anything they want to write about, with exception to some subjects that I haven't totally figured out yet. So at the bottom is my good friend Tim Pace. He was one of the first persons that I asked for, and then and then at the top one is a podcaster named Allison. She has a great podcast called Allison in Wonderland, and she and I just clicked. You know, it's such good chemistry.
Great name.
Yes, sir. So I asked her to write anything about music, and she came up with Music in the Soul, and it's a fantastic article. So I encourage everybody to go to our website, mainly go to the blog section, and please read everything they have. You know, and we're still looking for people to come on and write articles for us.
And there's a place on the website that you can reach out to contact James and give him your input and ask him your questions and all. And it's a great concept that you have. I can't even begin to thank you for taking the time to come on the show and just sit and chat about podcasting and about what you've done. And I honestly do see in your eyes that you see James Cox as James Cox, not as somebody who has battled cerebral palsy his life and is asking the public to help out. You're out there. You're in their faces saying, "Hey, this is who I am, and you take me at face value, and I'm going to do whatever I can to come into your life and share what I do in your life."
Yes, sir. Yeah, like I said before, you know, I want to help everybody, and for me to ask people to write blogs for our website gives them the opportunity to like branch out more. You know, if you're a writer, they can start with our website and then progress on to bigger and better things. And I just want everybody to succeed.
So, folks, get to the website, reach out to James Cox, ask him questions. If you want to start doing what he's doing, he'll help you set it up and tell you what to do and how to do it. And don't ever feel that there is anything that will hold you back, because if you want to do it, reach for the stars and go for them.
If I could do it, I know everybody else can.
That very, very profound. I always end my show, James, by saying, be yourself, because everyone else is already taken.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. You know,
it's absolutely true. And it's very, very true of this program, Someone You Should Know, and definitely true of my very special guest, James Cox. Thank you, my friend, for sharing some time with me.
Thank you so much.